What's up, everybody? It's your friend Johan here, and today we're going to be talking about metalcore. Combining the stylistic melodies of traditional heavy metal with the grit and beef that is hardcore punk, metalcore originated in the 90s and made its way through the 2000s and 2010s, becoming the phenomenon that it is today, a phenomenon that has personally affected me as it's one of my favorite genres of all time. I'm going to be going through 25 different metalcore albums, all of which are important in the grand scheme of things, and I'm going to be tier ranking them on a tier list strictly based on my taste and just my exposure to said albums growing up and stuff. So yeah, Core Kids assemble. As always, I'm going to go through these albums in alphabetical order. So to kick things off, at number 1, we got Architects and their album All of Our Gods Have Abandoned Us. This one's pretty easy. This one's goated. Yeah, this is Architects' best album. You know, it's also their most emotional, as it was the last album to feature original member and guitar player Tom Searle. Rest in peace, Tom. Obviously, the standouts here are A Match Made in Heaven and Gone with the Wind. Yeah, if you've seen that one live performance of them performing Gone with the Wind following Tom's passing, it's just such an emotional performance, and yeah, it's just such a great way to commemorate the emotion of this album. So following that, at number 2, we got Miss May I and their album Apologies Are for the Weak. And yo, this thing is severely underrated. It's my pick for like greatest debut record within the metalcore space ever, or just like greatest metalcore album recorded by a bunch of teenagers. It's really impressive considering how technical and advanced musicianship is, and you know how mature Levi's voice was when they did this. So yeah, Apologies for the Weak, severely underrated. Up next, we got Norma Jean and their album Bless the Martyr and Kiss the Child. This album is great. The only thing that's detracting from this album is that this kid on the album art freaks me out. After that, we got Adestria and their album Chapters. Yo, Adestria is super slept on. I remember when I heard the song Defy the Stars for the first time off of this album. I don't know how old I was, but as soon as I heard that, I was like, this is the shit. Adestria's, at least to my knowledge, they're still on hiatus, so they haven't put out anything since 2014. You know, hopefully they get back to it. And after Adestria, we got August Burns Red and their album Constellations. Yeah, this one's probably the easiest one here. This one's goated. ABR is my favorite metalcore band of all time, and Constellations to me is their best body of work. Whitewashed, Marianas Trench, Meddler, and those are just the hits. The whole album slaps. Following ABR, we got Motionless in White and their album Creatures. When I think of Motionless, I think of Creatures, especially songs like Immaculate Misconception and Abigail. Chris's vocals are just monstrous on those songs and just the whole album in general. Our later Motionless albums, better produced, more technically fleshed out, and just have better performances overall. Absolutely. It doesn't change the fact that Creatures is a top tier metalcore album, especially at the time it came out. Following that, we got Under Oath and their album Define the Great Line, which is also hella easy for me. This one is goated. Under Oath are probably right next to ABR on terms of my favorite metalcore bands, and yeah, Define the Great Line is their best work. It's not my favorite necessarily because Disambiguation is my favorite, but Define the Great Line has like all the elements that make Under Oath such a stable band. Following Under Oath, we got another goated metalcore band, that is Killswitch Engage and their album The End of Heartache. This one's another goated one, back-to-back goateds. Though Killswitch was never like my favorite band growing up, they're often cited as one of, if not the greatest metalcore band of all time. Yeah, and that's no thanks to, both Howard Jones's and Jesse Leach's work on vocals, Adam D's work on guitars, and just the rest of the guys in the band. They're probably on everybody's metalcore Mount Rushmore, so yeah, this album's goated. It's pretty easy. Following Killswitch, we got All That Remains and their album The Fall of Ideals. This one might get me in hot water, but to me, this is okay. I was never that big of a All That Remains guy. Don't get me wrong, This Calling is an absolute gem of a song, but the rest of the album just never really did it for me. Following that, we got Of Mice and Men and their album The Flood. This album is great. If I was making this video when I was like 13, 14 years old, I would swear that this album is the greatest. This was definitely like my favorite album to listen to at that age. Yeah. What's not to like about The Flood? It's a great album. Up next, we got Bless the Fall and their album Hollow Bodies. I say this is underrated, and the only reason why I say that is that I never really listened to Bless the Fall growing up, or when I did, I never really took them in like that. But I really enjoy this album now. Joey Sturgis's production is as clean as ever. Both Bo and Jared's vocals are phenomenal. Yeah, what's not to like? Following Bless the Fall, we got Parkway Drive and their album Horizons. Kind of similar to what I said about Bless the Fall. Parkway never really, crossed my radar growing up, which is kind of unfortunate considering how big they are as a band and how they're probably on most people's Mount Rushmores too, at least when it comes to metalcore music. I think because of this album, I'm going to check out the rest of Parkway's discography. Yeah, let me know what Parkway album I should check out next. Following Parkway, we got Dillinger and their album Ironworks. And yeah, I'm going to get some heat, but this is not for me. The whole mathcore, math elements within metalcore, it's never been my thing, despite how technically impressive it is. It's just not my thing. And following Dillinger, we got Converge and their album Jane Doe. To me, this album is a-okay. I'm fully aware and I completely understand that Converge is like the OG metalcore band, as Jane Doe is responsible for being proto metalcore and like creating and like paving the way for all that was to come afterwards. With that being said, I could just never really get into Converge like that. Following Converge, we got Woe Is Me and their album Numbers. Yeah, this album is severely underrated. I don't care what anyone says, this album slaps. What is also underrated is my next pick, and that is Unearth and their album The Oncoming Storm. I mean, it's definitely kind of weird to say that Unearth is underrated, considering how long they've been around and how much influence that they have. But I still feel that they're constantly overlooked. Buzz McGrath's and Ken Susie's guitar work is probably some of the best that I've ever heard. After Unearth, we got Bullet for My Valentine and their album The Poison. Yeah, this one is okay. The Poison is like that album for so many people, but I've always preferred Scream, Aim, Fire more. Following Bullet, we got Hatebreed and their album Satisfaction is the Death of Desire. And yeah, to me, this album is fantastic. It's great. Yeah, I love this Hatebreed album. I love how it's very hardcore leaning. I think out of all the albums that we've talked about so far, it's the most hardcore metalcore album among the list. And yeah, it's very loud, it's very chaotic, kind of like the same way that Converge's Jane Doe is. But yeah, for whatever reason, I just prefer this Hatebreed album. Ooh, we got a big one. Over here, we got Bring Me the Horizon and their album Sempiternal. Sempiternal is Bring Me's best work. Sempiternal is kind of like the 808s and Heartbreaks of metalcore, as in like it divided a fan base, and it like influenced a whole generation of bands to come after. Yeah, I mean I like all of Bring Me's discography. I like how they adapted their sound, and I kind of like how they're responsible for predicting all things trendy within the rock and metal world. And yeah, when I think of the year 2013, I think of Sempiternal. Look, I'll say this. Despite, the problematic history of this band, and that's just putting it mildly, when you think of metalcore as a genre, you can't think about metalcore without thinking about As I Lay. Shadows Are Security is, to me, their best work. And without this band, I wouldn't be, following Josh Gilbert into his tenure with Spirit Box, and I wouldn't be following Phil Segroso, who is now playing for Seosin, and that's how I got into Seosin. So yeah, rounding us off at number 21, we got Trivium and their album Shogun. Yeah, this album is fantastic. It's great. Though I know most people would cite like Ascendancy as Trivium's best work, I've always just liked Shogun the best. And yeah, this album is just great. I have no notes. After Trivium, we got Attack Attack and their seminal album Someday Came Suddenly. Crabcore. And after Attack Attack, we got Asking Alexandria and their seminal album Stand Up and Scream. Ooh, so edgy. And I don't think the band themselves like this album all that much, to be honest with you. At number 24, we got Avenged Sevenfold and their album Waken the Fallen. This is another goated metalcore album. Kind of like the same thing I said about As I Lay and their album Shadows Are Security. When I think of metalcore, I think of Avenged Sevenfold and I think of Waking the Fallen specifically. Though I was never, a big Avenged Sevenfold guy, I did listen to this album a lot, and I gotta give it its flowers. And yeah, this album is what pioneered, or not pioneered, but like this album is the album that popularized the whole 5/7/8 guitar style riff playing thing. And yeah, and finally, to end off this list, you can't talk about metalcore or risecore without mentioning The Devil Wears Prada. And here we have their album With Roots. These guys really know how to make a good record. I love the direction that they're taking their music today, but when I think of Prada, I will always think of this album specifically. And yeah, this album is great. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And yo, let me know what your favorite metalcore album is. That's all I have for you today. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace.